welcome back to the channel, guys. So this week's battle report is the Battle of Olustee from 1864. Now this one was recommended from one of you guys on YouTube. I'd never heard of the battle before myself, but actually after researching it, it seemed very interesting, and so I went for it. So if any of you have ideas for future battles, please let me know. So from my reading, the Union forces in Florida were trying to punch north to destroy Confederate supply depots. The Confederates obviously weren't going to have any of that, so they had developed a defensive line just north of this position, but as the Union came on, they advanced to try and throw them out. You can also see on this battlefield the railroads from my previous video on building them. Forces for this battle were relatively equal. I think historically the Union had slightly more troops, but it wasn't noticeable. However, the Confederates did start with more troops on the table. So I was playing Union again this time, and my plan was just to try and push forwards. We decided that the victory conditions would be a draw, would be basically no one holding any of the road exits. If you owned one of your opponent's road exits or were within 10 centimeters, it would be a minor victory. If you owned both, it would be a major victory. If you owned none of them, then it would either be a draw or a defeat, depending on how your opponent did. So both sides did need to attack pretty hard. So for the first few turns, as his troops were sort of fanning out and getting into position, due to the fact that he had more on the table, I just had to do a holding action in the centre, which is exactly what I did with my troops. Because he did have about a third more at this stage than I did. My artillery were doing a good job at giving him a pounding, but even so, it was still a lot of casualties because he had two guns firing onto my units in the centre. You'll have to apologise, the camera angle, for some reason it had tilted down and didn't realise until afterwards, but at least you can see the vast majority of the battle. So from my understanding, historically the Union troops were advancing, and they had slightly more troops to hand, as I said earlier, and then the Confederates counter-attacked and started to push round on the left wing. At that stage the Union troops had to start to withdraw because their flanks were getting hit. If you know better than me, please let me know, because I'm actually very interested in this battle. It was very fun to fight, but also the historical context is pretty interesting also. So as you can see there, as he started to create this line of troops, he just slowly but surely started blasting my units back. My reinforcements were moving up, but very slowly. I was able to break one of his units on the right who started to flee towards the back, which was quite handy, and I think it kind of saved the day. Plus he decided at one stage to concentrate his artillery fire on my guns to try and silence them, which gave my infantry in the centre a bit of a reprieve and gave them a chance to get the reinforcements up, which is what I needed. Although, as you can see, there's another one gone. So yeah, I was getting a complete beating at this stage. However, my gun on the base of the screen there was really causing him grief, and one of his units on the left decided that it had had enough and it ran for it. In the centre, my commander was pretty man of the match. He just kept, every time a unit would break, he would rally it and send it back to the front. At this stage, despite having got 3 of his units routed and running for the back, he then got reinforcements in, so again his numerical superiority remained in place. and with that in mind he decided to come on the attack again. So now that my reinforcements had started to make their way up the table, and there's my second group of reinforcements, it was time for me to try and figure out a way to try and get some victory points. And my idea was to try and break these units on the left, or I guess it would be his right flank. They had both taken quite a pounding from my artillery and the close fire from earlier on in the game. And so one of them had already broken previously, and so I figured if I could concentrate fire on them, I might be able to make them flee from the table, and I'd get a chance to swing round. That's pretty well exactly what happened there. Both his took several artillery shots, and with that decided they were out of it. So I swung one of my brigades round and decided I would try and march for the road entrance. But every time I moved, his line would just be readjusted slightly, so I was constantly under artillery fire. Whilst on my right wing, although I had one fresh brigade come up, the third base there was very heavily damaged from basically having been in the fight since the start of the game. So I would have to attack with them, but I wasn't holding out much hope. So at this stage on the left, my troops were within the 10, and so I was, if the game would end, going to be in the position of a minor victory. Troops on the left started their advance. In the centre, my artillery piece was just picking off his units as best it could. But my troops were just getting blasted by his cannon. The third would run as well. So the game ended in a draw. Overall, I'd say I probably took more casualties. Quite drastically more casualties, actually. It was a very fun game. Very hard. I don't know quite how I could have done it differently, but I think we will try it again in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. And if you've got any individual battles that you'd like us to refight, please let me know. See you next time.